Welcome. Today we're going to be assembling a Tiva TM4C123 GH6 PMI breakout board or module that I created. This will be useful for making other boards that you don't really need to lay out all of this every single time on. It can be tedious. So let's go ahead and get started. One problem is I'm missing the AP7333 3.3 volt regulator. I'm going to have to peel it off of my little breakout breadboard here that I made. So we'll go ahead and do that first. Go ahead and flood the pins on this, make it a little easier to work with here. Give it some fresher solder. There we go. There we go. Have that side almost free. There we go. Lifted. Come at it from the other side and just pull it off. Boink. There we go. SOC 23 is not that bad. Okay. Now the actual assembly. So when assembling a board like this, you're going to want to go ahead and put the power distribution system on first, and then just verify that that's working. The AP7333 I'm using here is intended to work with, in this schematic at least, a 5-volt source that will be supplied mostly over USB. Now you may see this board and think, that's not very breadboardable with it being pinned out on all 4 sides, and you're right. It's not designed to be used on a breadboard. This would be more of a perf board style development module, or really meant mostly for easy PCB prototyping. Okay, that looks good to me. Okay. Now that that is on, let's go ahead and test that, actually. So our ground is here, our 5 volts is here. We can go ahead and use the same board that we used to pull the pins off of to verify that we're going to get a 3.3 volt out, because we have that piped to the pin that we filled with solder. We'll go ahead and use this ribbon cable to do this. Go ahead and grab a multimeter to test this with. Give it power. Let's see if we're getting 3 volts out. And we are not. Are we getting 5 in? Yes, we are. But we are not getting 3 out. We're getting 5. Getting 50 milliamps. Or 50 millivolts. That is unusual. Okay, that sucker's definitely on there this time. Here that I made. So we'll go ahead and do that first. So first, let's start with C9. One of these. So C9, 7, and 5 are all the same component. So let's go ahead and put those on there. And we only need 3 at this time, so we'll go ahead and just peel off the film up to that point so we can save our label on the back. There we are. And those probably just disappeared, but don't worry. That was 9, 7, and 5. So here we have 9. That's why I always order extras. That little sucker just evaporated. Apply a little less pressure with the tweezers. Alright, 9. Come on, get off. Nine, 5. No, it's going to be a little difficult. There we go. 5. And is there any hope of recovery? Oh, we're using our last one. And 7. There we go. Go ahead and tack down the other sides. And there we go. Now let's do the 1 microfarads, which will be 10, 12, or just 10 and 12, is that it? Okay, it's just 10 and 12. So we can go ahead and pop those off of this side. There we go. 10 is right next to 9. 12 is clear on the other side. Yeah, it's over right there. So I'll go ahead and grab 10 here. We'll want to put a little down first. There we go. Okay, let's do the point ones, which are 8, 10, sorry, not 10, 8, 6, and 11, and 13 was the point one, but it doesn't really matter. They're all in the same thing. It's all power distribution. It really doesn't matter. It can go anywhere. It's mostly just important to have the names and remember. Well, it's mostly important to remember to have them. Stubborn buggers. Alright. Point 1. Actually, we need more than 2. We need 2 more than 2. There we are. So these are 8. Already been somewhat pretend. 6. And 12 and 11. 11's tinned. 12 is tinned. And just swap 12 and 13. Let's pop these on there. This one's looking to be slightly difficult. There we are. Okay. If anyone is curious, the size of these components are 0.0603. They can be intimidating at first, but once you've worked with them for a while, they're really not too bad. I like my little technique here of iron in left hand, tweezers in right hand, makes it pretty easy for me. Okay. Now we have one last PDM cap. And it goes C14. Looks like I have an 0805 part here. That's annoying. At least the landing pad will be mostly tolerant, especially with how much space I have. Alright, there we go. That completes the power distribution network. I'll just solder bus all these. There we go. Okay. Let's verify the power one more time before continuing. And yep, still showing rock solid 3.3. There we go. Now, let's go ahead and do the supporting crystals next. Okay, so we have a 32.768 megahertz crystal, and we have a, oh, where'd they go? 16 megahertz crystal. Those use a support 10 picofarads and 24 picofarads, which also ran off. There we go. So for this one, the way I have this laid out, we have the crystal here with the smoothing caps right next to it. So we'll have to do this in a particular order. We'll have to be crystal first, and then our caps, or yeah, caps. Fingernails usually help. There we go, yep. The thumb with the fingernail. Alright, as usual, small amount of solder on one side. It didn't turn out exactly small. You can see here on the bottom, that's how the contacts are, and then there is a tiny amount exposed on the side. We'll mostly want to have this be in a fluidic state when it lands on it. There we go. Perfect. I should have slightly tinned that side, but we'll just go ahead and use the Hazel. Should be fine. Alright, and now our 10 picofarad capacitors already have a pre-tinned side. That one should go a little farther back. There we are. Now these are just to help smooth out the signal from this 16 megahertz crystal. These just go straight from the pins to ground. Now, before we do the 32.768 kilohertz crystal, we'll go ahead and put on a resistor 10K for the wake and reset and hibernate pins that need to be pulled high. Just because I have it really close, could be difficult to put on after the fact. There we are. This is a standard 10K pull up here. There we go. There we are. And done. Okay. Now for this one, I'll go ahead and put down the crystal first. The order is not as critical on this type of component. Well, on this configuration. There we are. Do a little hand adjustment here. There we go. Yeah, close enough. And a little structural solder to keep it in place here. It's warm. Okay. Managed to tin opposing sides of the capacitors for this one. That will complete the supporting components. Let's go ahead and double check everything one more time before putting on the QFN here. And yep, there we go. And now for the moment you've all been waiting for. So, the Tiva itself. Surprisingly, may not be as difficult as you think. The most difficult part is usually the initial lineup. There we go. Oh, I guess I should have been zoomed in. Here we are, all nice and lined up. Now let's just go ahead and tack down one corner very carefully, not to misalign it. Ah, and we did. Double check all the pins. Needs to rearrange a little on this side. There we are. Now we're all good. Okay. Time for Noah's favorite part. The solder flood. Okay. So at this point you're probably thinking, wow, that's a horrible disaster. Not so. We will end up using a mixture of solder braid and flux to get all of the solder exactly where we want it. So first, let's go ahead and flex it real good. And just spread it around with the iron. This was a bit much solder, but oh well. Now, because I'm brilliant and have acquired fluxless solder braid, I don't have to flux this manually. Now let's go ahead and pull up some of the excess solder. There we go. Now from here, we will go ahead and smooth it out some more with some more flux. And it should mostly take care of itself. As you can see, we have a couple little straggler pools here. There we go. Let's go ahead and reflux and run those ones. And there we have it. Go ahead and do a once over to verify everything is bridge free and ready to rock, and then we'll plug it in. Now, one thing to be aware of when working on tiny pin pitch chips like these is for solder bridges that can happen. So we can see here we have something that looks a little suspicious on it. The first side looked good. This side looks good. But this side, where we were obstructed, has some serious problems. We have 2 bridges on here. Now let's see if we can go ahead and rectify those. That one's fixed, and the other one. I made it worse. Let's go ahead and get a flux pen in there. The true magic marker. Okay, you can see bubbles all over in there, and we'll just go ahead and drag across. And we can see that we've trapped it on the end. What we'll do is just go ahead and take a solder wick. Let me find another one. I'm currently using it to prop up the camera. There we are. That one's seen some better days. Take the solder wick, get it all up in there. And pull it out. Now this side is ready to go. Let's go ahead and address the small issue here. Not likely a problem. Clean the tip off first, make sure we don't introduce anything else. Could be an issue. It's extremely tiny, not really even sure what it is. Don't really have anything small enough to work in between the pins. Maybe dip pin? I don't know, those seem kind of huge by comparison, yeah. I bet I know what that is, and yeah, that's a serious problem. That's a piece of solder wick. Yep. We're gonna need to get that off of there. There we go. And that is all clear. Don't think it got pushed into the pin. Can barely make it out there. So, yeah, should be good now. Ready to rock. Verify the other sides. Yep, ready to go. Now, before we move on, there is one final thing to finish. We should put some headers on there for the programmer we're going to be using. Now, I have these 6-pin dual row headers, and we're just going to go ahead and yank out one of the pins that we don't need. There we go. And let's solder her up. There we are. Go ahead and guarantee that connection. And done. That is a Tiva module. Now, we can't really truly guarantee that this is ready to go until we have programmed it. So let's go ahead and start that now. All right. We've got it hooked up to our little test board here. I've put together a small LED and resistor circuit here. And let's program it to see if it works. Now, we are on PA2 with our software. Which is right here on our chip. So on the second side, it is the third down. On our little module here, that will be this pin, which is the full other corner. PA2. Yep. So this corner, PA2. Yep. Let's go ahead and test. Connect up ground and our signal. Give it power. I'll just apply some pressure to these. And let's try and program it. Target power loss. That should not be happening. After no small amount of anguish, what has happened? Well, the Tiva has been replaced completely with a new one. The power sense, turns out, likes to have power on the XDS 100. And it turns out you might need ground connected on all three ground connections in the XDS 100. I thought I was Mr. Smarty Pants, can get away with just one, but does not appear that is how this works. So, now that we have all of those changes made, let's go ahead and reconnect power. Try and program our MCU here. There it is. Pop. Yes. Power loss. What? Retry. Oh my god. Oh. I think it's working. Okay. Let's go ahead and retry our little signal here, or test circuit here. So the software should just blink the LED if it's working, and oh yeah, there you have it. Ah, that is nice. Okay, that was far more trouble than it should have been. Well, there we have it. The Tiva module is functional. Be prepared to see this in future videos. This is quite a stepping stone part right here. I already planned on using these in separate boards, but that was for a previous revision of this that failed because there was a routing error that shorted 3.3 volts and ground. So yeah, that's garbage. But I changed the landing pad because I had some inner things, but that's not really important. So what did we learn today? Ground all your grounds. Yeah. All right. I hope you enjoyed that, and keep tuned for more stuff. See you later.